The lights danced off the mirrored wall, casting the entire room in a dreamlike haze. I held my glass of white wine standing quietly in the corner of a high-end art exhibition in downtown Denver. The guests were dressed to the nines, lively conversations filled the air, and the soft sound of piano music drifted gently across the space. Everything was nearly perfect. Until I saw it. Me. Ellie Hartman, 37 years old, director of an interior design firm. A woman who believed, until this very moment, that she was in a peaceful marriage with the man she'd chosen at 24. And now, I was staring at him. Jason. My husband wrapping his arm around the waist of Tessa, my best friend for the past 10 years. They were only a few steps away from me, thinking the massive mirrored installation behind them only reflected lights and distortion. But it didn't. Mirrors don't lie. Jason's hand was sliding down her lower back, and Tessa tilted her head, smiling sweetly as he whispered something into her ear. My heart jumped, stabbing sharply inside my chest. The glass in my hand trembled violently. I tried to stay calm, but my throat was so dry I couldn't even swallow. A soft ping came from my purse, snapping me out of the trance. I pulled out my phone, palms damp with sweat. A message from an unknown number. Look in the mirror. They've been like this for 4 months. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I nearly dropped my phone. My heart pounded so hard it felt like someone was punching my chest from the inside. Jason and Tessa still didn't realize I was watching. She clung to his arm, her fingers tracing circles on his suit jacket like it was their private joke. Nothing about it was friendly. I took a deep breath and stepped out of the shadows. My heels echoed loudly against the white stone floor, drawing glances from nearby guests. Ellie! Tessa turned, eyes wide in a fake display of surprise. You have to see this piece. Shattered Memory. It's incredible. Jason pulled his hand away, awkward like a child caught red-handed. I walked right up to them. The piece they were admiring was a broken mirror, reassembled into a warped human face. I looked Tessa in the eye. That's a fitting title. Shattered Memory. Then I turned to Jason, my voice low and steady. How long? Jason's face froze. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm asking how long the two of you have been sleeping together. The room gradually quieted. A few guests turned to look, subtle glances becoming stares. Tessa blinked rapidly. Ellie, you've misunderstood. I'm not blind. I held up my phone. This message? Someone saw everything. And 4 months isn't a misunderstanding, Tessa. Jason gently touched my arm, trying to calm me. You're overreacting. I yanked my arm away like he'd burned me. Overreacting? You're holding my best friend like a trophy in a public space, and I'm the one overreacting? His face flushed, but he kept a composed tone. Can we talk about this at home? I stepped back, scanning both their faces. I don't need to take this home. Because, Jason, my home was destroyed the moment you brought her into it. The words cut through the glittering atmosphere like a blade. Jason lowered his gaze. Tessa opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I turned and walked away, leaving them behind as dozens of eyes followed me. But I didn't feel ashamed. Not even a little. Only my heart was breaking, cracking into sharp little pieces just like the shattered mirror behind them. I don't remember how I left the gallery. Maybe I drove, maybe I took a cab. Everything after that moment blurred together, like I was drifting through my own life without really being there. When I opened the red room brick house in West Highland, the one Jason and I had bought 8 years ago, the darkness in the living room matched the icy void inside my chest. I turned on the lights, walked straight into the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water, my hand shaking so badly I had to brace myself against the counter. The back door creaked open behind me. Ellie. Jason's voice, weary but unapologetic. I figured you'd be home first. I didn't turn around. You came back with her? No, Tessa got an Uber. She needed some time. I turned to face him. So you admit it. Jason sighed and placed his keys on the counter. I wasn't going to hide it anymore. I just didn't know how to say it. I nodded slightly, the water in my glass rippling with the tremor in my hand. Starting with, "I'm sorry" might have been a good place? He didn't speak, and that silence said more than any excuse ever could. "How long?" I asked, voice calm. Jason looked down at the floor. "About 4 months." I nodded, just like the message had said. "You know," I continued, "the worst part isn't what you did behind my back. It's that you thought I'd never notice. That I was too busy being the mom, the wife, the only adult keeping things together, to ever look up." "You've always been perfect, Ellie," he said, and those words made my skin crawl. "Excuse me?" "I felt like I wasn't enough for you. You did everything right, you were in control of everything, and I felt like an extra in your life." I laughed. Dry, bitter. "So that's why you chose Tessa? The one who can't even do dishes? The one I had to cook for every friend's retreat? The one who still calls me every April to ask how to file her taxes at 35? Jason frowned. "She listens. She doesn't judge. She makes me feel..." "Understood," I cut in. "Sounds familiar. I said that exact thing about you, to Tessa. I guess she took notes?" He didn't respond. I turned away and hurried upstairs. I couldn't stand there a second longer without wanting to throw something against the wall. The bedroom door swung open with a sharp click. I stood in the dark room, eyes fixed on Jason's gym bag still resting by the armchair. My hand reached for the zipper on instinct. I wasn't looking for anything specific. Maybe just a sliver of hope that he hadn't betrayed me completely. But I found it. A small, old black phone. No SIM card, no case. I powered it on. The password? I tried my daughter Haley's birthday, June 23rd. The screen lit up. Dozens of messages from T appeared, marked with heart emojis. Selfies taken in my living room on nights I worked late. Messages about pulling funds early. Notes on asset division in case something happens. One text read, "Just wait until Haley turns 8. Then I'll be her mother, not..." I clutched the phone, my entire body cold as if the blood had been drained from me. A soft sound came from the hallway. "Ellie." She stood there, hair messy, clutching her stuffed bear, eyes wide. "Mom, are you sick?" I quickly shoved the phone behind my back and wiped my tears. "It's nothing, sweetheart, just a little stomach ache." She stepped closer, placing her tiny hand on mine. "I heard Dad talking to someone. He said, you're really mad at him." I gripped her hand and nodded. "Mom and Dad are having some trouble. But I love you very much. You know that, right? Is Dad coming back home?" I kissed her forehead. "Grown-up things can be a little messy sometimes. But you'll always have me, I promise." After tucking Haley back into bed, I returned to the bedroom. Jason stood there, tense. I didn't let him speak. I held up the phone. "You should get ready. And don't you dare move another cent from our accounts. If you think I'll sit back and let you and her fight for custody, think again." The next morning, I went to my father's law office. Benjamin Hartman, a man known throughout Denver's real estate and legal circles for winning the most complicated divorce cases. His office was on the 18th floor of a glass tower near Civic Center Park. The entrance read, "Hartman and Associates," etched into glass like a silent warning. "No emotions override reason here." I stepped into his office, wide, dignified, filled with the familiar scent of leather, old paper, and strong coffee. "Ellie!" He looked up from a pile of files, removed his glasses, and stood to hug me. I heard Jason's making trouble. I opened my bag and pulled out the phone, a USB, and a stack of documents I had printed all night. From our shared bank account and from Jason's secret phone. "I need you to see this." He sat down, pulled his glasses back on, and within seconds his kind eyes turned sharp. "Messages, photos, and financial transactions," I said evenly. "He's been transferring funds from our joint retirement account into a separate account. I suspect it's Tessa's." My father nodded, opened a bank report. "Account ending in 7189. Here it is. First transfer was $2,500, about 3 months ago. Then, weekly, steadily increasing to $15,000 per transfer." I clenched my fists. "Total amount? Around $186,000 as of yesterday." His voice grew low. "And the account is under Tessa Monroe's name. No question about it." It felt like someone dumped a bucket of ice into my chest. There's more. He placed another folder in front of me. I had the firm run checks on Jason's secondary assets as you requested. 3 property investments, Colorado Springs and Aspen, all registered under third parties. One of them is co-owned with someone named Madeline Green. I looked up. Who? His private yoga instructor. According to company records, she's listed as a nominal partner. Looks like Jason's inner circle is bigger than we thought. I stiffened. Does Tessa know? Definitely not, my father replied, cold as steel. Suddenly the door opened. His assistant's voice called from the hallway. Mr. Hartman, there's a Carter here. Jason's younger brother, he wants to see you. I stood up immediately. Send him in. Carter walked in. About 35, tall, clean-cut blonde hair, wearing a simple blue button-up. His eyes were guarded as they flicked between me and my father. I didn't want to come, he started. But Ellie, you can't destroy my brother's life over one mistake. I didn't react. My father gestured toward the documents. You want to see the definition of one mistake? Carter hesitated, then picked up the file. I watched his eyes scan each line: money transfers, real estate purchases, explicit messages from Jason to Tessa, even a plan to move funds offshore through a shell corporation. His face shifted, from doubt to shock. Oh my God. I crossed my arms. Still want to defend him? He said Tessa was the real thing, that you were always too busy, never had time for him. And that gives Jason the right to steal nearly $200,000, hide funds, lie to my best friend, and betray his own 8-year-old daughter? I said each word like a blade. Carter sank into a chair, hands over his face. I didn't know, I really didn't know he was this deceitful. I looked him straight in the eye. I won't forgive you, and I won't let you or anyone in your family stop me from doing what's right for my daughter. Carter looked up. This time his eyes were different. Ellie. What do you need me to do? I nodded without saying a word. Sooner or later everyone has to pick a side. And today I needed to know who truly stood with me. My father closed the file folder, his gaze sharp as a blade. Starting today I'm handling this. And you won't be fighting alone. 3 days later, I received a fast delivery envelope with no return address. It was lying on my doorstep when I came home from dropping Haley off at school. I didn't open it in front of her, but the moment I stepped into my home office, I grabbed a letter opener and ripped it open. Inside was a slim file and a USB. The documents were printed on thick, numbered sheets, and on top was a handwritten note. You should know this. I don't agree with what Jason is doing. M. I plugged the USB into my laptop and my breath caught as the screen lit up. Screenshots from hidden cameras, in my car, at the cafe where I usually worked, even near the school playground where I picked up Haley. There was also a copy of an invoice from a private investigation firm, Stone Ridge Surveillance, with a signed contract from Jason Hartman dated 2 months ago. The listed services: monitor wife's behavior, gather evidence of emotional instability, alcohol consumption habits, and anything else that might negatively impact custody proceedings. I was stunned. My fingers shook on the keyboard. Jason hadn't just betrayed me, he was building a case to take Haley away. He wanted to paint me as an unfit mother in court. I grabbed my phone and called my dad. I just received documents from someone signing off as M. Any guesses? Madeline Green, my father said instantly, voice dropping. Jason's yoga instructor, the one listed in the property documents. She might be realizing it's not safe to stay involved. I gripped the phone tightly. Jason's trying to use our daughter as leverage. I won't let that happen. We need to strike first, my father said firmly. Move before he files anything. I exhaled slowly. I'm ready. That evening, I invited Jason to the house. I sent Haley to stay with my cousin for the night. No child should witness what was coming. Jason showed up 20 minutes late, looking like he always did. Crisp white shirt, gray slacks, tie loosened as if he'd just come from a long day at work. A good performance, I thought bitterly. Ellie, what's going on? He asked as he stepped in, eyes scanning the room like he expected someone else to be there. I motioned for him to sit on the couch. Without a word, I placed a tablet on the table, video from the USB queued and ready. Jason looked at the screen. Within 5 seconds, he shot up. What is this? I should be asking you that. I stood, arms crossed. This is you? Hiring someone to spy on your wife, recording me, setting me up as unstable so you can win custody of Haley. Jason clenched his fists. Who gave this to you? Surprised? One of your own. Seems not everyone in your little harem is as loyal as you thought. Ellie, let me explain. No, I cut him off. I don't need to hear it. I just need you to understand this. If you file anything trying to smear me in court, I will go public with everything. All the documents, the videos, the texts, the wire transfers, the properties under other names. I have enough to ruin you, legally and financially. His face went pale. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you, stop, now, or lose everything. Jason stepped back, looking at me like I was someone he no longer recognized. Tessa and we were going to wait until Haley was older, so it wouldn't be so hard. I laughed. You mean wait until she's in middle school, then file for divorce and claim I'm unstable so you can steal her from me? That plan is in my hands now, Jason, and I don't play by your rules. He fell silent, his eyes blank, calculating. I'll file first, I said. I'll request full custody. And I'll make it public if I have to. Jason instinctively reached for his phone, but I threw him a cold smile. I was in the middle of preparing documents for the preliminary hearing when my phone rang. No name on the screen, but I knew the number too well. Tessa? I hesitated for a moment, then answered. Her voice was shaky. Ellie? I need to see you. It's urgent. I didn't respond immediately. Finally, I said, this afternoon, the old cafe in Highland Square, 4 o'clock. Tessa arrived early. She sat at an outdoor table, her face drawn, barely covered by pale makeup. When I approached, her eyes dropped. Thanks for coming, she said. I didn't sit. Say it quickly. Tessa took a deep breath, then reached into her bag and pulled out a sonogram. I'm pregnant. It's Jason's. The world around us seemed to pause for a beat. The sound of a spoon stirring coffee, children laughing in the distance, all of it faded. I looked at the ultrasound photo, then at her. And you think this baby will give you the upper hand? Tessa shook her head. No, I don't want to fight, I never imagined things would turn out like this. I gave a faint laugh. Not out of humor, but because her words were painfully familiar. Right, because clearly you were only thinking about the good stuff when you slept with your best friend's husband. Tessa looked down. Jason said he felt stuck between us, that you always controlled everything, that he couldn't breathe when he was with you. I crossed my arms, eyes locked on her. And you believed him? At first, yes. And now? Tessa glanced away. Now I'm not so sure. Something feels off. I set my bag on the chair and pulled out a slim folder, sliding it across the table. You don't have to wonder anymore. Tessa opened the folder. Within seconds, her face turned pale. This is Jason's wire transfers, not just to you, but to Madeline Green, his former yoga instructor, the one who co-owns a condo with him in Aspen. Oh, and she canceled her Tuesday classes recently, morning sickness. Tessa's eyes widened. You're saying... I'm not saying anything, I corrected. I'm showing you. She held the statement with shaking hands, lips trembling. This can't be real. What about Rebecca? I added. His former receptionist? Or the accountant at the Boulder branch? I have proof Jason bought her a plane ticket to San Diego last month. The hotel reservation was under Mr. and Mrs. Hartman. Tessa said nothing. Her hand instinctively covered her stomach, as if protecting the child growing inside her from a world she no longer understood. I stood up. You thought you were special. But you're just one of many Jason's women. And trust me, in the end, none of them win. Tessa's voice cracked. What are you going to do? I don't have to do anything, I replied, slipping on my sunglasses. Jason's destroying himself. That night, Jason came to my house looking tense, nothing like his usual smug self. You met with Tessa, I said flatly. He exhaled, like bracing for impact. She told you? She's pregnant. And she knows about Madeline, and Rebecca, and the others. Jason slumped onto the couch. I never meant for it to go this far. But you let it go far enough that I had to sit down with your mistress and hand her proof you were cheating on her. Isn't that ironic? Jason clenched his fists. I still want to keep the family. For Haley. I laughed, a dry, exhausted sound. You gave up this family the moment you looked me in the eye and lied. And don't you dare use Haley to bargain. She's not a pawn. He started to speak, but I held up a hand. One more thing. I've already frozen our joint accounts and requested a forensic audit on every asset in your name, including the ones you hid under your exes, and I'll be filing for divorce this Monday. Jason stiffened. Ellie, it's not because I hate you, I said, holding his gaze. It's because I need to protect my daughter from a man who doesn't even recognize himself anymore. At exactly 9 o'clock Monday morning, I sat in my father's office next to his most trusted legal partner, Attorney Caroline Meeks, a specialist in high-asset divorce litigation. On the desk in front of me was the signed petition, along with an emergency motion to freeze all marital assets held jointly by Jason Hartman and me. The judge will receive this by late morning, Caroline said calmly. We're requesting immediate freezes on all bank accounts, real estate transfers, and investment portfolios tied to Jason, including those co-owned. I nodded. And he'll find out today. Caroline smirked. Most likely while he's trying to move funds to pay his attorney. I didn't need to smile. Just imagining Jason's face when he realized he no longer had control, that was enough. That evening, I agreed to attend a family dinner at Jason's parents' house at Carter's request. This is the best chance to end things before they spiral worse, he said over the phone. When I arrived, everyone was there. Jason, Tessa, his parents, and Carter. They'd staged a picture of peace, pumpkin bisque, neatly folded napkins. But I knew exactly why I was there. Ellie, Jason's mother said gently. Sweetheart, is it really that serious? Jason said, You two were just going through a rough patch. I pulled a folder from my bag and placed it on the table. I hope you've all finished eating, because what I'm about to present might kill your appetite. The room went still. Jason growled. You came here to humiliate me in front of my family? I came here to finish this in the open with clarity. I opened the folder. Here are Jason's transaction statements, funds wired to accounts under Tessa Monroe, Madeline Green, and Rebecca Powell, nearly $240,000 over 9 months. Tessa grabbed the folder, her lips trembling. Rebecca who? I turned to her. Ask Jason. There are a few more names I haven't gotten around to yet. Jason snapped, Ellie, you have no right. And here, I cut in, is a copy of the contract Jason signed with a private investigator specifically instructing him to monitor me for anything that might hurt his custody case. Jason's mother gasped. Jason, is that true? Jason looked around, flustered. You don't understand the context. Carter stood up. I understand. I understand you're a man who betrayed his wife, lied to his friends, and pulled the dirtiest tricks to win custody, just to protect your image. I thought I could still defend you. But no. You've already lost everything. Tessa said nothing. She picked up her phone and quietly walked away from the table. I pulled out the final stack of papers. This is the divorce agreement. I'm requesting full custody of Haley, our current home, and asset division per the original prenup. Sign it now or I'll submit all this evidence to court, including the recordings from your former assistant Maria, who's agreed to testify. Jason clenched his fists, his face turning red. You can't do that. I can, I said coldly. The court will be very interested in the fake psychological profile you built to gain custody, and the Professional Ethics Board. I'm sure they'll love your secret financial activities. Carter slid the pen toward Jason. Sign it. Don't make Haley grow up with a father who would use his daughter as leverage. Jason looked at me, then at the eyes now fixed on him. At last he picked up the pen and signed each page. Smart move, Ellie, he muttered. You planned this all along. No, I replied, taking the folder back. You walked yourself into this, I just ended it. I left the table without looking back. Out on the front porch, I found Tessa, standing with her phone in hand, eyes red. I thought I could be a better mother than you, she said without turning. Now I'm not so sure, I said softly. There's still time to be a decent person, but not by destroying someone else's family. She nodded once, then walked away in silence. 2 days after Jason reluctantly signed the divorce, I got a call from Maria Alvarez, his former assistant. I had always thought of her as just another forgettable cog in his corporate machine, but her calm voice on the phone made me set my coffee down mid-sip. "Ellie, I think you should know, Jason didn't just cheat on you with 3 women." I froze, fingers hovering above my keyboard. "In fact," she continued, "he had at least 5 ongoing affairs. I was the one booking his meetings, his hotel rooms, hiding payments as business expenses. I kept copies of everything." I clenched my hand. "Why tell me now?" "I was fired last month for refusing to cover up more, but I can't sleep at night with the guilt. I've got nothing left to lose, Ellie. If you want testimony, evidence, call recordings, I have it all." We met at a small bakery in Wash Park. She brought a USB and a file folder. Inside were receipts, printed emails, and a list of women, each marked with symbols. A few names I already knew. The rest shocked me. Cecilia, Alina, Brooke, mostly former employees. A few, female clients from conferences Jason attended. Then Maria opened her phone and played an audio recording. Jason's voice came through clearly. "Rebecca's finalizing her immigration paperwork. She doesn't want to have the baby here, it's too loud. I've already wired her the money. Tessa still thinks she's the only one. Hilarious." I turned to Maria. "He said Rebecca's pregnant?" Maria nodded. "She told him 3 weeks ago. She's planning to move back near her mom's place in Puerto Vallarta." I exhaled, leaning back in my chair. "Thank you, Maria. I won't let this go to waste." That afternoon I drove to Jason's rental apartment, where he'd been living since moving out. I knew Tessa was still there. Carter had mentioned she rarely spoke now, hardly slept, mostly sat holding her stomach on the couch. When I knocked, Tessa answered. She wasn't surprised to see me. "He's inside," she said quietly. I stepped in, and Jason looked up from his laptop. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep. "What now?" he muttered. I didn't answer. I placed the USB on the table. "Play this before you say anything." Jason reluctantly plugged it in. When his own voice played over the speaker, repeating word for word what he had told Maria about Rebecca, I saw Tessa's expression shift. No more shock, no more tears, just a cold, devastating stillness. "You knew she was pregnant and still lied to me?" Tessa asked, her voice nearly hollow. Jason stammered. "Tessa, I didn't—" "And this is the baby you said you couldn't wait to raise with me? How many babies are there, Jason?" Jason shot up. Things got out of hand." "No, Jason," I said, quiet but firm. "You had full control. Every hotel room, every bank transfer, every sweet word you recycled for every woman." Tessa silently stood up, grabbed her purse and coat. Before leaving, she turned to look at me, then Jason. "You said I'd be the last, but you were wrong. I'm the last one to put up with this." The door shut behind her like the final punctuation mark to whatever remained between them. I stepped closer to Jason, retrieving the USB from his hand. He looked at me, his eyes devoid of fight. "You think I came here to rage?" "No, I know you came to end it." I nodded. "At last you get it." I looked around the messy apartment, the place he traded his whole family for. A home. A daughter waiting for her father to show up at her piano recital next week, unaware he'd already erased himself from her picture. "Goodbye, Jason." I turned away without waiting for a response. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need an explanation. On a mid-April morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, glowing on the wooden countertop where I was slicing strawberries for breakfast. Haley sat across from me wearing her sun-print pajamas, doodling in her coloring book. "Can we plant more flowers this afternoon, Mommy?" She looked up, eyes sparkling. I smiled. "Of course we can. Today's Lavender Day." Since everything ended, Haley and I started over with the smallest things. Planting a new flower each week, adding a fresh photo to the wall each day, and telling bedtime stories that held no trace of pain. We called the little garden behind our house the Rebirth Corner, where Haley planted seeds of hope and I slowly replanted myself. Wesley arrived around 3 p.m. carrying 2 warm sandwiches and a bottle of fresh lemonade. He wore a simple button-down, faded jeans, and that easy smile that warmed me more than any blanket during the cold months. "Where's the princess?" he asked as he stepped into the backyard. "She's digging holes for the lavender," I said, wiping my hands on my apron. Haley came running out of the shed with a trowel in hand. "Uncle Wes, you have to plant 3 flowers today. Mommy says purple ones are for people who are funny and know how to cook." Wesley laughed. "Guess I better plant a whole row then." We laughed together and started a simple afternoon, digging, mixing soil, placing roots, covering with earth, tasks that seemed mundane, yet calmed my mind more than any therapy ever had. As I lined up the new planters, Wesley walked over and handed me an envelope. "Which came to your old address. Delivery guy left it by the door." I took it. The handwriting was familiar. Tessa Monroe. I paused, then opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter and an ultrasound photo. "Ellie, I'm not asking for forgiveness, but I want to thank you for not choosing to destroy me the way I once tried to destroy you. I'm having a daughter. I've named her Ivy, because I want her to know how to root herself even in the hardest soil. Jason's left the country. Last I heard, he's in Mexico with someone new. I get it now. Love isn't something you take, it's something you grow. Wishing you and Haley true happiness. Tessa." I read and reread the line. Love isn't something you take, it's something you grow. Maybe, after everything, she had finally learned something. I folded the letter and placed it in the wooden box where I kept old memories. Not to relive, but to remember. By late afternoon, Haley had fallen asleep on the garden bench, and Wesley and I sat quietly beneath the grape arbor, not yet in bloom. He placed his hand gently over mine, saying nothing. "Do you ever think," I asked softly, "that the people who've been hurt the most might be the ones who love the most deeply?" Wesley looked at me for a long moment, then said, "I just know this. Someone who can stand back up after betrayal deserves to be loved the most." I turned to him. In his eyes I no longer saw pity, only companionship, steady and kind. That night I wrote out our plans for the week, filed the asset transfer paperwork, registered Haley for art class, and circled one date in red ink: Spring Fair with Wes and Haley. No more court documents by the nightstand, no more silent tears in the bathroom, just 3 people, 1 little garden, and countless new days waiting ahead. As I turned off the lights and tucked Haley into bed, she mumbled in her sleep, "Mommy, don't forget to plant giggle flowers." He smiled. I didn't have to look far to find myself again, not when my daughter's laughter, the gaze of a steady man, and a blooming season were all around me. Ellie's story is a powerful reminder that betrayal may break us, but it doesn't define us. In real life, there are women like Ellie who choose not revenge, but renewal. When we let go of those who don't deserve our love, we create space for what truly matters: our children, our peace, and love that's real. Happiness isn't revenge. It's when nothing inside you can be broken anymore. What do you think of Ellie's journey? What would you do in her place? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss more emotional and meaningful stories about family life.